Good morning. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to the Pitch Light Chronicles. I'm Uncle Tats. I'm here as always, Donald and Rob. And the question that's really been on everybody's mind with free agency still out there, trade rumors still pending, spring training, in full swings. Do the Yankees have a pitching problem? Are the Yankees still looking for pitchers that will get them over the top and just the undisputed winners of the offseason? Or do they already have the pieces that make them already the winners of the offseason? Because the pitching has been on everybody's mind, right? We know the offense was fixed, and it was fixed very, very well. We'll go over the lineup, and I saw Rob put a tweet out this morning. You insert two players that are going to be on our opening day roster into that lineup, and that's your opening day with no flaws. So it really comes down to the pitching, the strength of the rotation, the durability of the bullpen, and of course the biggest question, because it was not really addressed in the offseason, the closer role. How much faith are we going to have on Holmes? How much pressure is on Holmes to kind of get us back into the mindset that he can handle the job? Because he does have the stuff to do it, but so do other pitchers that might not be getting a chance, like Luis Gil, who may be, a year away coming back from the injury before we really put him in that role and see how he handles it. But do you guys think the Yankees have a pitching problem?
A good one, I think. We have a good pitching problem because we have several guys that are making waves for the bullpen spots that are open right now. You look at the guys that pitched yesterday. Unfortunately, my dude De Los Santos looked like crap, but it was one outing, so I'm not gonna put too much stock into it. But there's been a couple of guys that have looked really good out there. Poteet, I think at this point's a lock to make the bullpen. He's been really good so far. Birdie has opened some eyes. Clayton Beeter has looked phenomenal in his couple of appearances. And then you think about him as a potential starter / bullpen guy. There's an option there. Holmes looked good in his first outing yesterday, which is a good sign. But again, you're not going to put too much stock into one outing. You want to see how they do in maybe about 4 or 5 different looks at each pitcher, especially for a bullpen guy. So I think bullpen wise, we have enough that we can go throughout the entire season. Plus, we got some guys that are going to be coming back from injury later in the year. Trevino and Efros will be available by the summer, so there's a couple of added pieces there as well. It's still the question of how healthy is Rodon going to be? Well, he's going to pitch today, which is definitely a good sign. I want to see how he looks in start number 2. How does Nestor look after the second turn through the rotation? So, it's really, there's only the question marks there is, do they add to this rotation? If not, I think our rotation is still good, but it could always be better. And that's what I'll stand it at. I don't think it's necessarily a problem. It's just there's question marks, and we'll see if they address them or if they're just going to roll with what they have, which either choice is a good one, in my opinion.
Yeah, and before we get Donald's opinion on it, just if you haven't already, hit that like button. If you are new to the show, hit that sub button. We are 12 away from 600, and we want to hit that mark because we have some special things. So we have some new types of content coming up, and we are anticipating hitting that mark to give you all of that. So just hit that sub button, share this out, and always smack the like, the little heart on the bottom of the corner, tap the shit out of that. It helps the algorithm, helps us get out there and get some new voices into the discussion. So with that being said, Donald, how do you feel about the pitching?
Well, first of all, oh dear Lord, women's cricket is on my television. Get that off my screen right now. Right. So Nothing.
So, how you feel about the pitching? Never mind never
Uh,
mind cricket. Nobody cares about cricket.
This is terrific. That was like a horror movie. Um, well, you know what? You know what? The pitching is fine. I mean, I'm a little concerned about a couple of aspects. Like Ron Marinaccio sucked, and De Los Santos sucked, so that's obviously a concern. Um, I don't know how massive their roles are going to be in the bullpen, but it's obviously not a great start. Um, I think that I think there's definitely room for a starter in a fifth starter. I really think that. One good thing is Clark Schmidt looks great.
Schmitz look good.
And so those two things are good. Garrett Cole, obviously Picasso. I keep calling him Picasso because he is. And Rodon's healthier, and his velo's up, so that's good, right? So the first four slots are fine. I think there's probably room to improve the fifth slot. Nestor Cortez is penciled in there. I don't know. I've not been blown away by him. His first start, he gave up a lot of hits, but he got out of them. And then this next start, he left a hanging cutter over the middle of the plate, which got tattooed. But again, the 3 strikeouts after it was pretty impressive. But I don't know how deeply you look into that aspect, but I still think there's probably room to improve the fifth starter spot. So I hope that we're still active in trade negotiations and also maybe checking on Jordan Montgomery, because I think he'd be much cheaper than Blake Snell, and he would upgrade the rotation. I wouldn't say we have a pitching problem at all. I would say that if there's one area in our roster which needs improved, I would say a starting pitching. I do think that bullpen, we have so many arms. Like, you're gonna find a couple that are going to step in and do a good job. So I'm not overly concerned about that. We have so many, so it doesn't even look like a big deal when someone that you thought would maybe get in the bullpen, like a Ron Marinaccio, blows up, because we've got so many other ones in there. Like as you mentioned, Poteet looks like he's going to be good. There's work there. There'll be Clayton Beater. I really like Beater. I think Beater has probably a really good shot making the bullpen too. So yeah, I wouldn't say we have a problem, but I don't love our rotation. I think we could probably update it a little bit. Just one more arm, and I'm ready to call us a World Series contender.
Yeah, it's look. Yeah, I don't know. I think Rob put it the right way. We have a good problem. We have 2 respectable pitchers that are going to end up being 4 or 5 in a rotation, and when you have pitchers with the potential of really leading the charge, because we saw a couple years ago with Nesta. When he's dealing, he went through a stretch where he was our top guy for a while. Cole kept getting rocked with the home run ball, and Cortez was holding down the fort and doing his job. To have a guy like that that's got that mindset and that the confidence to be able to do what he does in the bottom of your rotation, and a guy like Schmidt that could have easily been on the trade market. The Yankees put their faith in him, saying, "Okay, we'll move on from Brito, we'll move on from Vasquez, we'll move on from King. Schmidt, we're gonna put our trust into." I think that's one of these where he's going. I think he's going to have a great season. I'm expecting a lot from Schmidt. So you have these situations where the abundance of pitching that we have and the talent that they have, it's really going to come down to how they find roles for guys that are going to be working the bullpen. And I think, and I agree with Rob, I think Poteet's going to end up he's going to get a solid bullpen spot. He could easily be your guy that comes in the 6th, 7th inning and becomes like that bridge guy. I think he has that look. You also have guys like Warren, and that's going to be coming into the mix. Hampton, is going to get a good look. I think,
Hampton's already, Hampton's going to be another year or so away.
Yeah. But you're seeing things from him. It's like, okay, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel with him. He's going to be somebody that's going to be solid for us. Beater is another guy that's going to, find his way in. Mizewicz, who I've enjoyed, I've been talking about this whole spring training. He looks good. He's not a high velocity guy, but he keeps the ball down. He produces a lot of soft contact. So I'm not worrying about the pitching. I'm worrying about how they're going to handle the roles that they're given. I think that's where you could really start diving deeper into the weeds on.
Yeah, there's multiple options out there. And again, a lot of these non-roster invitees are someone that they're people that you always look at. Because every year we have one. Last year it was Hamilton. The year and Cordero was one of those guys, I believe. Every year they find the gem. And this year it could be Birdie and Dennis Santana for all we know. It could be Mosqueda, who we got from Boston, who pitched yesterday, the lefty. Maybe they roll with 3 lefties in the bullpen. There's so many different options. That's why I never wanted to spend over the top money on a closer. I wasn't in heavily on the Hader rumors. I didn't want them to go spend $12 million on a guy like Neris or Stevenson, which was the rumor. And Neris took less, but they didn't really need to, because none of those guys outside of Hader was a closer, and Hader got 19 million. So you weren't going to spend that on a closing pitcher anymore. Not because after the debacle that was Chapman. I trust the Yankees pitching staff. I trust what they do with the pitching in the bullpen, because they make magic every year with these guys. So I think our bullpen is going to be really, really good again. I think we have plenty of arms in that Scranton shuttle that are going to come in and step up if need be. Will Warren should never come out of the bullpen, in my opinion. I think if he's called up, he needs to be a starter and a starter only. So because of that, he should start the season in AAA unless he forces their hand, which I don't think that's going to be the case just yet, although he has looked pretty good. But I want him as a starting pitcher. If he's going to stay here, he needs to be a starter. Clayton Beeter is a guy that stuff probably plays better out of the bullpen because he doesn't have the third pitch yet. Warren's got about 5 or 6 of them, where Beeter has 2 good ones, and he has a third. He needs to work on his changeup a little bit. I know Pete had a breakdown of it yesterday on his channel, so check that out because it was a good breakdown. And that's why Beeter could probably be the next Michael King, which is perfectly fine. And considering we got him for Joey Gallo, that's a win right there. So I think the options are there. It's just I agree with Donald, though. I'm still questionable about the back end of the rotation. I like Schmidt. I like Nestor. I've been singing Nestor's praises all offseason. I want to give him another shot, but I also think they should have a short leash because Clark Schmidt still has to get lefties out. He struggled with that all season last year. He had a bad start, got good, and then he struggled down the stretch. People seem to forget that. He also struggled down the stretch. And Nestor, it's just about him being healthy. I think he's going to be okay, but you have a short leash on those guys. That's why I continue to still push that envelope of go sign one of these guys that's still out there because they're still sitting on the goddamn market. It's March 6th. So why not go do it? But again, I'm not going to also sit here and be like, the sky is falling because Clark Schmidt and Nestor Cortez are our 4 and 5. That's a pretty good problem to have. So there's room for improvement, but it's also not a bad thing to have what we have on the roster. I think our pitching is really strong.
Yeah, the pitching is strong. As I say, the back end of the rotation could do an upgrade. It's just I'm just thinking about the upside of Nestor Cortez. I'm hesitant as to the upside. I think we've seen the best of Nestor Cortez a couple of years ago. I think 2 factors have affected him. I think the pitch clock has affected the time in which he has to do these different arm angles and the different windups and the things to keep hitters off balance. I think you have to speed up that process. And when you speed up that process, all you have is your stuff, and his stuff is incredibly average. Plus, teams have got the film on his cutter. It's pretty obvious. If his cutter isn't located perfectly, it's going to get crushed, as we already saw in spring. So that's why he's my only question mark. And I mean, listen, I like Nestor Cortez a lot, and I think that there's a role for him here. I'm just thinking about the upside. And also, we do have a solid bullpen, but I wouldn't want to overtax it. I wouldn't want to, because we don't have a Mike King that can, as yet, well, maybe someone will step up into that role like a clean beater. But without that certainty that you have, because we have a bunch of guys that we're not sure of yet, but we think are going to be really good, like a clean beater, and Poteet. But without that certainty, I wouldn't want to overtax the bullpen with starters that can only go 5 innings. And Nestor's his absolute max is 5 innings. I would not want him to go a third time around that order because he will get tattooed. He doesn't have the stuff for it. So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, if there's an opportunity to do a deal for a Jordan Montgomery, I think it makes all the sense in the world. He'll be cheaper than Blake Snell. I wouldn't want the Red Sox to get him if you can get him. Why would you let him to go to the last place team in the AL East if you have an opportunity that maybe he's that difference maker to getting us to a championship? So that's where I'm thinking. That's where my head's at. I've already moved on from Blake Snell. I don't see a match there. I was watching the Yankees-Mets game yesterday, and Buster only says that it's done. There's absolutely nothing happening between Blake Snell and the Yankees, so that's out. So there you go. I still think that there's room there at the back end of the rotation. It's my only question mark. Everything else I'm pretty good with. Joan does bring up Will Warren and Luis Gil. Yeah, I'm hoping that Luis Gil maybe could get a bullpen spot. I think that there's room for him there in the bullpen. Rob is 1,000% right though with Will Warren. Why waste him in the bullpen when you have like a number of major league quality? You don't want to waste that in a bullpen. That's something that's perfect for a rotation to get through the order several times around because you've got the stuff that can keep hitters off balance over a longer period, over like 6 innings and stuff. That's what Will Warren has. So that's where I'm thinking. So if he's not going to make the starting 5, then he should be in AAA. I'm seeing Rob's face. Rob, what do you see?
I'm trying to wonder why Brad thinks I wouldn't agree with this. If we see Hampton this year, then we have a serious problem. Yeah, I mean that's kind of true. I don't know why I wouldn't agree with that. If we see Chase Hampton this year, that means we have injuries. Players are pitching terribly. Maybe Will Warren shat the bed for all we know. And all these different options that we're talking about are just really, really bad. If we see Chase Hampton this year, then yeah, I don't see why I wouldn't agree with that. Do you think it's because I said I would trade him for Dylan Cease that I don't like him? I don't know if that's what you mean by that. I don't know why. No, you're good, Brad. I was just kind of trying to figure that one out. If you're right, if we see Chase Hampton this year, that means either something has gone seriously wrong or he is pitching out of his mind that he's forcing their hand to put him in the rotation. But I still think it's too soon for him. But Brad, you're right about that. If we see him this year, that means, well, it could be a combination of both, actually. He could be pitching really, really well and others are pitching really bad and they have no choice. But yeah, that means something went wrong and we're probably losing some games, which I don't want.
Did everybody else watch the ESPN telecast yesterday of the Yankee Met game?
Yeah, I was not able to.
Brian Cashman is on for about 3 innings, which was very cool of him, by the way. I think that's something that's pretty cool
That's
for your general manager to be on the telecast for like 3 innings is very, very cool. Very enlightening as well. I think it's pretty. I will say that it's rare for a general manager to hop on a national telecast and be so open. And I think we're kind of lucky. I think there's a lot of teams that would love to have that transparency. So what I picked up was that Cashman mentioned a lot about trades. He didn't mention free agency. When he was asked the question of, are you looking to are there still room to upgrade this roster? He said yes. But he didn't mention free agency. Did anyone else pick up on that? You said you can't mention trade scenarios and then going back and forth with trade scenarios. That says to me that he isn't looking at the free agents. I think it's pretty clear that he's looking at the trade market. So that would say to me that Dylan Cease is probably what he's looking for, and it's just a matter of getting that price down. No, he never mentioned that. Anyone who didn't watch it, he didn't mention that names per se. But if you read between the lines,
Yeah.
I didn't hear him say, we're talking to agents and stuff like that. No, it was more, we are looking at trade scenarios back and forth, emoji, blah blah blah. So that says to me that I don't think we're gonna be in any of the free agents, and so maybe look for a trade at some point between now and the deadline. God knows when. Cashman also said that the market is very, very slow at this time of year. Hard to acquire talent in spring training. So it says to me, it's not imminent. So I think this starting five that we're seeing right now will be the starting five that will break camp.
No, like I said, I think it's going to be more of with Nestor and Clark of who gets the 4 or the 5 spot. It's going to be one of those two are going to be our 4 and a 5. It's just a matter of which role that they slot into. Like I said, it's a there are concerns with can Schmidt follow up with his second half performance from last year? Can he carry that into starting this year? Cortez's health, and also how fast is Warren going to be ready to go? That's also another factor. You don't hold on to these, despite what I mean. The Yankees do have a history of it, but how many guys are the Yankees going to want to hold off on and not use? Or clog up spots for him? Because I think that's what really hurt Peraza was where were they going to play him? So, and I know that Peraza is somebody that we've been saying, just give him the job, just give him the job. You were you didn't hesitate to call up Dominguez, in September. That was an easy decision. Started the season off with Volpe. That was an easy decision after last spring. Give Peraza third base. I've been saying that's the easiest way to go. Just give him third base. Put LeMahieu in the utility role. Let him platoon with Peraza. Let him platoon with Torres. Let him platoon with Rizzo. Because as much as I don't think his age is a factor, the age does catch up to you at some point. And if you're able to keep a guy with that, with his talents at the plate, and you're able to give him days off, let him rest up. Same thing, like platooning with Rizzo. Let Rizzo, kind of ease his way back in after last year. So it's I think that the Yankees have the perfect problems on their plate. And that's why I think a lot of us are at this point in the spring training, why we're so still vested and locked into what they're doing. I think it's a testament to how that Cashman and Hal built this roster. And to Cashman's point, right? He wants to talk about, as much as we complain about some of the moves he makes, can we at least continue to give this guy credit for putting himself out there to the media?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, absolutely.
He's not shy of the camera, and neither is our owner. You don't see that a lot on other teams.
Yeah.
They usually shy away. It's that's the manager's job to be the guy in front of the camera. And Cashman and Hal are like, nope, we'll share the burden of that. We'll try to keep keep the manager out of the fire. Let the manager answer for the in-game stuff. We'll handle the media with everything else. And I think that's such a positive for this team. I think that's why a lot of I think that's why we're in the position we are. You said
keyword accountability.
They're finally they always hold themselves accountable, but they were never addressing the issues that they were getting them into trouble. This offseason, they actually addressed the issues that had them on the hot seat with the fans. Yeah. So that's why, when he might be leaning more towards the trade market, and we're going, okay, because they have a plan. Not going, it's a long off season still, and there's still games to be played. Like the same narrative, we can have a book as thick as War and Peace of all the excuses that we've heard in their tenure. And we're starting to see that they're answering some of the questions that we've had. So
No, I agree with that. But so yeah, I completely agree with your point there. I don't want to go too far off the point because we're talking about pitching today. But to go back to your thoughts regarding Peraza and LeMahieu, it's well known that Peraza is like one of my favorite prospects, but I would not do that. What you suggest, Tats, I don't suggest Peraza being our everyday third baseman and LeMahieu being a rover. I actually disagree with that because this team has chosen the direction to be all in on a championship. And if you choose the direction to be all in on a championship, you need your best players playing every day. DJ LeMahieu is an infinitely better player than Peraza. He commands respect in the locker room. Anthony Volpe described him as the master. You don't have a multiple batting champion, no matter what his age, on the bench. I'm sorry, I just don't do that. Also, it might affect his morale and mentality if someone who's worked so hard to be this much better. Aaron Boone said that he's looking the most explosive that he has in 3 years. If you then demote him for a Peraza, who has not had a good spring so far at all. I mean, I know he's been hurt, but the multiple errors and he's not had a hit yet. He doesn't look great. So I don't see that as a possibility. Like he's gonna be the backup to LeMahieu, and I think you have to earn that. Peraza has to earn that. Give the job to LeMahieu. Give the job to LeMahieu, but if Peraza balls out in the time that he gets, then you can consider it down the line. But at the moment, LeMahieu needs to be the starting third baseman. You can't bench him.
No. And that's perfectly fine because I think there's a way that you can get both of them in the lineup too. Because again, if you bench Rizzo for for a day or so, just keep him out of the lineup, then you can put LeMahieu at first. But Peraza, at this rate, if this keeps up, he's not going to be on the roster anyway. He'll probably be in AAA. And maybe they add Jeter Downs to the 40-man or whatever because he's been playing almost every game. And he's been playing multiple positions. He played third, he played short, he can play second. So maybe they use him as the utility guy.
We demoted him.
Did they? Oh, that was yesterday, right? Okay, I must have missed that one. Maybe he does something in minor league camp. I just don't know what they're going to do with Peraza because once they got that extra option, I feel like they're going to use it. Why not? Right? They gave you a fourth option. Why not use it? Unless he's like from now till the end of the spring, if he starts to hit, I'm excited to see him today. We'll see what he does today. But you're right though. He hasn't played well. I know he got hurt, but the only thing that really came out of it was he did steal a base after getting hit by a pitch yesterday, but that's it. He hasn't really shown much. His first string game, he had a couple of errors. He hasn't really come out of the gate strong. So, but luckily there's still a few more weeks that he can get going because I want him on the roster. I do. Yes. I think there's a way to get him out there, but at this point, I don't want to say they killed his value, but they certainly missed the window to trade him. That's for sure. So now you might as well try to get what you can out of him.
On the roster yet. It's possible. It's possible. I think Cashman is looking at the market. There might be someone that'll be waived.
But yeah, they try to get Gio and Hernandez. So maybe Donovan Solano becomes an option. He's still out there, I think.
Still an option.
Maybe there might be a team that isn't contending, that has a pricey veteran that maybe they just want to cut ties with and then go young, and then you could maybe pick him up to be a utility guy. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees keep an eye on that market. You might be right, Joan. As of now, I think Peraza is a utility guy, but he does need to up his game a little bit because this is back-to-back poor springs for him. He didn't have a good spring last year, and he's not had a good spring so far this year. Early days, and I'm not discrediting him because it's well known. Like he's one of my favorite prospects. I love his raw game, but he ain't stepped up, and you do need to step up if you're a Yankee. So that's as simple as that. Interesting that the Yankees chose to send a couple of guys who I was really enjoying watching to minor league camp. One of which was Downs. I'm surprised at that. I thought that Downs was actually playing pretty damn well, and I thought he was worth another look for another week or so. Another one, Spencer Jones, who has literally been perfect.
That's not surprising at all, though, because he wasn't making the team.
Don't you think we could have waited another week or so of games?
No, because the longer you wait, then it's going to lead people to believe that, what if he breaks camp with the team? Because remember with Dominguez last year, they did the same thing. Everyone was like, Dominguez should make the team. And then they sent him to minor league camp and everyone was like, what are you doing? And it ended up working out for the best because he had a slow start in the minors. So I think Spencer Jones is going to be just fine. He'll start the season in Double-A. And if he keeps swinging the bat the way he was swinging, actually, he wasn't swinging and missing at anything. He didn't miss a pitch all spring. If he continues to play like that, he'll be in AAA very soon and maybe push for a spot on the roster as soon as this year. I still don't think we need that with Dominguez coming back, and I think Verdugo's going to have a big year. There's no need to rush Spencer Jones. Doesn't mean he's not going to play anymore in the spring. He's just they're making it known he's not going to make the team. He shouldn't make the team because the guys we already have are good enough to handle the job. So we just know that we have a special player waiting in the wings, and he is coming sooner than later. It's a good time. It's a good problem to have, a good thing to know. And the same thing last year with Dominguez. Once he's here, he ain't going anywhere. And Dominguez proved that last year before the injury. And Jones will do the same thing when he's called up, most likely coming out of the spring 2025.
Yeah, I know. It's just, you looked at his swings yesterday, man. One double that was absolutely roped, and then another pitch, but this double that should have been roped, but it was a fantastic play by the third baseman. He hasn't missed a pitch, and I was kind of hoping to get another view of him playing first base. I didn't get a chance to see him maybe move over to first base. Just an opportunity, because this is a great opportunity to do so with knowing fully that he wasn't going to be breaking in a camp. But I thought maybe another week wouldn't have done any harm because there's still another 22 days.
No, because what it is they're trying to shrink at this point during the spring is when they start shrinking the roster down a little bit, right? Because rather than your starters, they've had a couple of weeks now to get warmed up, work on their timing. So now, rather than having two at bats and then bringing in a substitute, you're going to see them get that extra bat or two. So they're going to be in the games longer. So it doesn't serve a purpose to keep somebody like Jones up here where you're not going to be utilizing him as much. Let him go to the minor league camp where he can still get the consistency on the field and at the plate. That's why they're doing this. That's why they did that last year with Dominguez.
Yeah, they did.
So this is just the way that spring training works every year. This isn't, it's not a slight towards any of the players. It's just they have to make sure that they're not jamming anybody up because they need the opening day roster to get that extra batter to that extra inning on the field on defense. The pitchers, they're going to start going from a limit between 40 to 50 pitches. You're going to start seeing that 50 to 60 range, and they're going to start building them up. So that's why you're going to see a lot of unfavorable moves. I'll say that. It's going to be unfavorable, but this is just the nature of this is just the way business is done in spring training. It's unfortunate, but if we want these guys ready for opening day, this is how things have to be done.
Makes sense.
And it's every team's going to do it. It's not the Yankees being the Yankees. No, and look, Jones has been. I'd like to see him, especially knowing that he's not going to. We already know he's not going to start the season on the major league camp. Yeah, would it have been nice to continue to watch him and have something to be excited about? Would it have been nice if they waited one more week because the NY Underground is down there for spring training, and they're just missing him? So I feel bad for Hector, Pete, and all of those guys down there that are like, God damn, we just missed him by this. We were this close to seeing him in action, But I'm sure that they'll catch some of the minor league games down there.
Get to see Soto today. That'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's really what it's all about. Seeing how this the potential opening day lineup, how that's all going to play out, and how they're performing at this point. So it's just it does suck, but the fact of the matter is that's just the way spring training goes. Because a lot of people don't follow this deep into spring training. They watch the first week, and then they're like, all right, they just fast forward to opening day. Especially that the games are so limited to view or listen to. A lot of people check out. And then they'll come back right before the last couple of games of the spring. And they'll get, all hyped up for opening day again. and they don't see all this stuff that happens in the middle of it.
Well, yeah. Speaking from personal
Yeah.
experience, this is the first time since I was maybe younger that I haven't really missed a spring training game that has been televised. I've watched every single televised spring training game. As of the last couple of years, I was like, I checked in the first couple, and then I was like, I'm good until opening day. So this is cool because I've been really locked in, and it's because of the new additions, and it's because I love our farm system, and there's guys that I want to see, there's guys that I want to check out. So I totally understand why they did it with Spencer. It was just pure selfishness. I wanted to see him more. I love watching this kid. He's the most exciting prospect I think we have, even more so than Dominguez. And it's not a slight on Dominguez. I just blown away by Spencer Jones. So I was kind of wanting to see more of him, but I totally understand why they're doing it. And that's absolutely cool. But this spring has been so cool. It's been great. I've been locked in. Like there's arms that you want to pay attention to. There's invitees that are like, this guy, if he pitches well here, could make the team. So there's always something interesting. Even like when De Los Santos came on yesterday, you're like, right, can this guy maybe make the team? So you're always kind of keeping an eye out on these things. So this has been the most open, most exciting, most interesting spring. And then when you have Juan Soto, who's basically batting 1,000, it's kind of incredible to watch him every day. So it's just my personal.
Yeah, the thing with Jones is you don't have to. You have to see it in the minor leagues. You have to see what he did this spring. You have to see if he can do that in Double-A. Because again, it's only a handful of games that he was doing this, and it's a good sign for sure. 90 plus pitches of not swinging and missing, that's a good thing. But if he does that in Double-A and Triple-A, you'll know that those changes he made to his swing are actually going to good use and they're actually working. If they can't call him up right now. Anyone that thinks they should put him on the roster right now, it's way too soon. It's a handful of spring games. You're not going to take a guy that struggled a little bit with some stuff last year because of a good 90 plus pitches. You're going to put him on the roster. It's just not how it works. So this is perfectly fine. You will see him. You will see him on the Yankees as soon as next year. If it's this year, like Jonathan mentioned, then we had an issue. Then a lot of players got hurt and things are going seriously wrong. It's the only way you see Spencer Jones this year, but we will see him. And it's a good sign that these moves are working. And Mazza also had an earlier question. Yeah, here we go. What invitee do you think makes I think two of them might actually. Birdie, or I think two of them have a chance. Birdie and Dennis Santana probably have the best chance of making the team right now.
He's another name you're not hearing enough about. And I can't sit here and say I've been locked into him, but from what I've seen in the reports I've read, Santana's holding his own. So yeah, Santana's definitely a candidate for that.
For my own personal selfishness, I would be so happy if Nick Birdie makes this team. It's because once we signed, I was like, this guy's got, I don't know why, but him and Poteet both were guys that I looked at. Like everyone was, who are these guys? Oh, World Series back on. They're making fun of the move. And I'm just like, these are the moves that Cashman usually hits a home run on.
Yeah.
And I mean, for my own selfish, I guess, to try to build my ego up a little bit. If they make the team, I'll be like, I told you so. But it's also because they're pitching really well, and that means the bullpen's going to be good. Plus, I really like Dennis Santana, too. So, again, there's another arm out there. There's many of them. And there's only 2 spots open right now. So, it's up for grabs. I think Poteet's got the lock on one of them. So, now there's really one spot. Birdie, Santana, maybe Clayton Beater. I mean, it's a freaking free-for-all for this last bullpen spot. And that's a good thing because you have something to watch now from now until opening day, which is, 22 days away? So, we're close.
Yeah, and if he said it earlier,
for me, guys, if you haven't seen him pitch yet,
away.
If y'all haven't seen Santana pitch yet, I certainly keep an eye on him next time he makes a bullpen appearance. He was great yesterday. He was one of the only guys that actually impressed me yesterday because it was an ugly game from the Yankees pitching perspective. It's actually been kind of ugly in a pitching perspective the last couple of days, apart from the starting pitching. But the bullpen arms that we've used haven't really been that impressive, apart from Poteet. Birdie was good, and Santana was really good. So I like him. De Los Santos, I still hope that there's something there because he's such a big dude, and he looks like he's an imposing figure on the mound. he needs to figure out his location because he left a lot of pitches up and they were getting absolutely cream crackered. So it is a little concern, but Santana looked much better. Clean inning, perfect.
Yeah, it's look when it comes to the numbers and like they're getting their timing down, right? Because you see early in spring training, a lot of the batters they swing at everything. They're just trying to read the pitches. All right, how am I catching up to the fastball? How am I catching up to the off speed? Now you're getting into that where guys that the seasoned guys like a Judge and a Soto, LeMahieu, Rizzo, you're gonna start seeing a couple of games where, all right, if I don't think it's a fastball, I'm not going to swing. I want to work on catching up to the fastball. And that's the pitch they're going to focus on. On the pitching side of it, why things will look ugly, you're going to see where they're going to be like, all right, I'm going to work on, I'm only going to throw my changeup for this at bat. And I'm going to try to see how I'm able to move it around the zone. So you're going to see more isolated work on the mound and at the plate.
Facts.
So it's hard to really these are not games where you want to dive into the numbers. You just want to see how they're responding to the work that they're putting in. And that you'll start to see the results of it like next week, where they'll start putting their whole arsenal together. They're going to start working at bats like it's a real major league game. You're going to see pitchers, try to limit the pitches that they're throwing. They're not purposely throwing it at the top of the zone to see if they're able to get that swing and miss. They're going to be determined for the swing and miss. So you're going to see a lot more. You're going to see a lot more precision in the performances come next week once they get through this stage of the spring.
Well, that's true for certainly established arms that are locked in, but the ones that are fighting for a place, the non-roster invitees, they need to be hitting pretty much from the jump in games. They don't have.
Yeah, but it might be a situation where a guy like
they could get cut at any point, so they need to perform well. The ones
but the coaches know if you're going to have somebody like Santos. Look. We really, the one pitch we really think you need to work on is, your fastball down and in. So the coaches are communicating with them. So it's not like they're just going up there blind and they're saying, look, we need you to shut down the whole inning. No, we see everything else for you is working. We want to see how this pitch in this location, how effective are you in that? So this is what I want you to focus on this inning. If you get to an 0-2 count, I want you to go up and in. If you're in a 1-1 count, I want you to go down and away. So they're scripting the at bat to what they want to see. So that's where if you're new, not that you're, I'm not saying because you're, let's say you particularly, if you're new to watching spring training this deep in, you're going to have a lot of the questions that we're addressing. Why aren't they, producing more at the plate? Why aren't they, why aren't we seeing more from, these invitees, the prospects? These are the questions that normally come about at this stage. That's why I was saying that this is that week where you're going to see a lot more of isolated workouts in those positions, and it'll come back into main real game play next week.
Well, sometimes you just tell a guy to try throwing strikes if he has command issues. Work on getting in the zone. That's it. It's as simple as that. There's no need to overlook anything. You don't need to do a deep dive into how things work in spring training because we know how things work. Everybody here has watched enough baseball to know how spring training works. But numbers usually matter for the non-roster invitees more than they do for the guys that Like if Aaron Judge went 0 for 12 his first, I don't even know how he's been doing. He has a couple of hits, but I don't think he's gone deep yet. If Aaron Judge went 0 for 20 in spring training, none of us are going to sit here and say, I hope he's ready for the season. None of us are going to be saying that. So that the established guys you're not really worried about. Yeah. Guys that need to bounce back, you want to see how they perform. Like I want to see more out of Stanton, that's for sure, because he hasn't really done too much yet in the spring. I want to see more out of him. I'm thrilled with what Rizzo has shown. Torres and Soto, they've looked fine. DJ's looked pretty good. Judge is Judge. I'm not worried about him. I'm not worried about Soto. But some of these other guys you want to see improvements from. You want to see how Nestor does when he hits 50, 60 pitches or something like that. You want to see how Clark Schmidt does specifically against lefties. Yes, the other day he looked pretty good. So there's a good sign. Those are things you want to look for. And that's really it. That's all it comes down to in spring. You're working on things. You're not going into the spring trying to I gotta throw 10 perfect innings in order to prove myself. No established players doing that. The guys that are trying to push their way to the team, those are the ones that need to be doing that. But sometimes a guy like De Los Santos doesn't need to because he was pretty good last year, but he is kind of a project. So now Matt Blake might be saying, hey, try throwing this in the zone more. And now he gets tattooed like he did yesterday. Now you go watch the tape. Let's figure it out. And I trust Matt Blake. I think De Los Santos is going to be good. I'm not going to write the book off of him from one bad spring outing. It's his first outing. It was a bad one. But you know what? Nick Birdie also got hit pretty hard one of his outings. And also Caleb Ferguson got tattooed a couple of times. We're not going to kick him off the team. We just traded for him. So it's one outing. You don't want to look too much into it. And let's just see how he does the next few.
So one play yesterday was actually one of the worst plays I've seen since maybe Chuck Knobloch arguing with the umpire and letting him run score. We have to watch this. Have you got the screen up?
Yeah, I see it. Yeah, just go full screen on your end.
Nice one.
There
Here we go.
I didn't even see where the hell the ball go. I know it bounced off the. That's Void Vet.
Yeah. Did you not watch this, Taz?
No, I didn't see it. I was not able to see any of the game yesterday.
Right. This is
play that one more time. I gotta.
Funny thing is, we can't have the sound,
glove, but I don't see where
you can hear Boone yelling the whole time. Yeah, you can hear the Boone yelling the whole time. It's right there. He's right. Boone's pissed. It's funny because they had him on interview that entire time. So, yeah, that's pretty disappointing right there.
Oh boy,
look at that!
That is terrible.
That is one of the worst plays I've ever seen.
He's just kind of standing around.
Graceful. I'm still pissed at that. That's actually one of the worst plays I've ever seen. Just absolutely unacceptable effort from.
You can't have that.
He just stood there. Aaron Boone screaming at him, "It's over there!" And he's just like awful effort. And I'm so pissed at that. Like, honestly, if that was me, I'm honestly, Boone deserves a ton of credit because you saw how pissed he was. He was furious, but he still stayed calm.
I would have ripped that headset off my head and ran out there and just.
If that was
like
me,
a little kid, I would have grabbed him by the ear and I would have put him in the dugout and be like, "No, you're done. You're on timeout now."
If that was me, that headset going off. I'm leaping over the freaking the dugout and I'm chasing after him and I'm grabbing him and pulling him from the mound because he just stood there like a fucking moron. And this is someone who's playing for a spot on the team, and I'm sorry, he should be cut for that. I mean, it's right up there with the Chuck Knobloch, with the Gary Sanchez, just standing there, just terrible lack of effort and lack of being switched on. I know it's spring. I know it doesn't technically matter, but it's a terrible.
You got to be more locked in than that.
Well, for a veteran catcher, it's a terrible look for the younger players. For one, for people that are watching, two, you need to be locked in. And that was just a terrible effort. Aaron Boone was furious, and rightfully so. I was furious watching it, just absolutely dumbfounding. I was actually dumbfounded watching that. Exactly, Sean. He is a veteran. Just terrible. And it was so funny because Boone was actually complimenting Rourke Vet before that happened. Just before that pitch, he's like, "Yeah, he's such a great defensive catcher. He's athletic. He's great." And then, bang, that happened. And I'm like, that's why you need to cut this motherfucker.
And like Jones said, he's out of options, so he's either traded or released.
Release
I
him.
hope they don't show that video during the during the scouting, because that's not going to get him. They're not going to be banging down the door for him.
How did you guys feel about it, Rob? What was your opinion on it?
It wasn't a good one. It was a terrible play. Luckily, it's a spring game and it doesn't really matter. But he's still a good enough defensive catcher that I'm not gonna kill him for it. It's disappointing, but he might end up being our backup catcher if Trevino's not ready. So I don't think he's really going anywhere right now. But we have not. Have we seen Trevino yet this spring? Because I'm a little concerned about that.
I don't think I've seen him at all.
I mean, I know we have 5 catchers, but
this week,
unless they cut him and put Torrens as a backup catcher, that's a possibility. I'm just concerned with Trevino because he hasn't played yet. But Torrens is playing today, and he's played a lot. He's catching Rodon. That's a pretty big step for him. If Torrens continues to play like this, he could push Rortvedt out, which might be something they do. Wells is a lock at this point, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of if Torrens plays like this, because Trevino more than likely is not going to be ready if he hasn't gotten a start yet.
So you're not that. So again, 5 years is not that bothered, but it was just spring. It's not.
No, I'm bothered by it. I'm not gonna jump out of the dugout and choke the guy or pull him by his ear like Dad said he was gonna do. It was a bad play, but Rortvedt's a good enough defensive catcher that he'll bounce back from it.
But I know it wasn't just a defensive error, though. Everybody makes errors. It was just a lack of IQ and lack of effort, and just a lack of being locked in on the moment. He looked like he was in another planet. I mean, that's a terrible look for young players and people around him and people watching. I just don't think it's a good look. And Ben was rightfully pissed. He looked really pissed. I mean, he wouldn't be pissed if it was just a defensive error. It was just a mistake. Everybody makes it, but there was something more to that, and that just really rubbed me the wrong way.
Do you ever sit and watch blooper reels and just lose, and just laugh? Like when the ball bounced off, I think it was Canseco, and it bounced off his head and went over the wall.
Oh yeah, I was there.
There are things that happen that I think Rob's right on this one. Right. The initial reaction, you're like, I'm putting him in a timeout, and I'm like, you know what? It is.
Keep your opinion. Keep your opinion.
Come on,
I can see where you're. I wouldn't want to see him play the rest of the game. I really wouldn't. But I can see where maybe it's not. We don't need to have such an overreaction, but we do have to react. My reaction, I'd kill him. I'd go Billy Martin on him. But
right,
not everybody's going to do that. Bill Buckner, good one, Sean.
Never sit on the fence, Uncle T. Always choose a side.
My decision is I don't think it was a good play at all. I'm not going to sit here and be like it's no big deal, but I just don't think that one play is going to, we got to cut him now. But I still think that Torrens has played well enough that there's a conversation. It's because Trevino's injury. If Trevino was playing and healthy, I wouldn't worry at all about where I'd be like, he's going to get cut or he's going to get traded. So I'm not worried about it. I'm still not really worried about it. But the only thing that's concerning, well, I guess I am worried about it, is if Trevino's not healthy, do they put Torrens on the 40-man or do they just go, well, we got Rortvedt. He was here last year and the year before that. We're going to stick with him as the backup to Wells. I don't like that very much because I think Rortvedt's proven that he's just a he's like a left-handed Kyle Higashioka at this point. I would rather see Torrens get the shot.
My honest reaction, although the visceral reaction is like, oh, freaking Jason. No, my honest reaction would have been at the end of the inning, I actually would have benched him and I would have subbed him out. I think that was the thing. I think that was the play to do. That was the thing to do. It sends a message because it wasn't an error because everybody makes errors. Peraza made 2. I don't care. Volpe's made 2. I don't care. Don't care about errors. I'm more interested in the effort, and there was no effort there. And the way that he just stood there, once it was clear that the ball was at the backstop, and he just stood there, that pissed me off. That should be talked to. You should have been talked to about that. And I'm sure Boone has. I absolutely know that because I saw Boone's face. I have no doubt that Boone did, but I would have made it more pointed by not having him come out the next inning, because I think that was a bad enough play that warranted that.
Yeah, especially that he's on the broadcast, boasting, bragging about the guy,
Exactly.
like you were saying, and then that happens. It's like, what the hell? It really, it's the timing of it was terrible.
It is, and also you don't see that type of mental fart in spring training that much, and this it's like really bad, like particularly bad. So that's why I wanted to point it out. I don't, as I say, I don't care about errors or lack of performance. It's when something that glaring happens, and it doesn't speak well to the setup, and so Boone should have been embarrassed that happened, especially on a national televised game. So.
Joe, I like Joe's comment here. The last piece from the Donaldson trade.
Break that curse, please.
Before we head out for the day, let's go over the lineup for today. They're playing Tampa. It will be on yesterday. So it is a home game, and we have Rodon on the mound. So I'm looking forward to seeing him continue to do what he's doing. So leading off, we have LeMahieu at third base. Batting second is Soto in right. Third is Judge in center. Rizzo cleaning up at first. Torres at second. Stanton's the DH. Verdugo in left. Torrens is catching.
Nice.
And Oswaldo Peraza will be playing shortstop.
Nice. Peraza.
I actually like this lineup.
Love it.
It's more than likely your top 7 is your opening day top 7, and then Volpe Wells will be the 8-9, and there's your opening day lineup. Unless they go and Trevino is healthy, he catches Cole game 1. That's possible, but if he's not, you got your opening day top 7 at the very least right there, and Volpe's going to be there, so it's really just figure out who the catcher is. But I like having Stanton behind Torres right now because I think Stanton needs to work on a few things, and maybe having him be that 6th guy for now could work. But Rizzo in the cleanup spot seems to be working beautifully. He is feasting, hitting behind Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. So let's keep it that way. That 2-3-4, and with Torres as the 5, that is filthy.
That's brutal.
Yeah, this is going to be a good lineup. I'm really excited for today's game.
Yeah, I'll be particularly interested in Stanton because he hasn't looked good in spring. He looks slow on those fastballs. So let's see how his at-bats are in this game. I'm not worried about the results, but if I can see that he's on some of these fastballs, it gives me confidence that he's going to carry it on. But that's one of the things I'm keeping an eye on. Torrens is another thing I'm keeping an eye on. If he has a good spring and catches a good game, maybe he is that third catcher. I think there's an open spot now, is all I'll say after that error yesterday. So, yeah, a lot to keep an eye on. I love the first 7. That first 7 is absolutely fire, monstrous. And Volpe looks great too. So when Volpe is our everyday shortstop, he's had a very good spring. And he played some nice defense yesterday. See some of those plays that he made? And he did it while he was talking to the dudes on the telecast.
David Cone.
Yeah, and he was freaking launching perfect throws to first base and just did it all in one smooth motion. So he's playing very relaxed, and that's a really good sign as well going into the regular season. So there's so much to be positive about, really. Yeah. And another thing to keep an eye on is Rodon. Let's see if his velo is still climbing up there in the 97 range, and let's see how he does. Hopefully another healthy outing to have us really confident going into the regular season. But this is a game that I would recommend folk to watch, because this is kind of what will be very important as to how we feel about opening day.
This could be game 2's lineup for all we know. Yeah. If Rodon pitches the second game of the season, it could look very similar to this right here. So, I mean, look, Torrens only had a couple of he's had 8 at bats this spring, and I think he's got like 2 or 3 homers already. And his defense has been fine. And I think it'd be a pretty good story because he was once one of our top guys. We lost him in the Rule 5 draft. For some reason, someone took him at the age of 21, but he's only 27. And he's like, I think him and Rortvedt are like the same age. So, hey, if you can get your old former top prospect back and he can be your backup to Wells, that's a pretty good thing to have. Again, this is assuming Trevino's not healthy, which I think Torrens might not have any options. So he might have to make the team if Trevino starts the season on the IL.
But Rortvedt, I still think has a leg up.
No options.
I still think Rortvedt has a leg up because he caught Cole last year, and that will stand him in great stead. And Garrett Cole, what he says goes regarding catchers. So if he has a personal liking towards Rortvedt, especially if he likes throwing to him, then that probably edges him, no matter what happened yesterday.
Yeah. So, but this is going to be one of those spring training games where you're going to see a lot of live tweeting. You're going to see a lot of excitement. And the other thing that you're noticing is the attendance in this spring is actually increased. So you're seeing the effects of now that the games are we have the pitch clock and they're moving along a lot better. And the prospects that we have, our farm system, the Yankee, Steinbrenner Field has been packed, and I think that's so good. You see, but you're also seeing it across baseball. People want this season to start so badly they're turning out in record numbers this spring. So maybe baseball is healthier than they want us to believe it is. So that's also something to enjoy seeing on the screen.
Well, the Yankees are. That's for freaking sure.
Oh, yeah. But it's going to wrap things for us today. We will be back Friday morning at 10 a.m. as always. We want to thank everybody that participated in the chat. We appreciate every single one of you. So if you haven't already, hit that like button. Jonathan threw down there. We got 19 likes. Let's get that number up. And if you haven't already, hit that sub button and share this out with your friends, your family, the stranger on the corner.
Yeah, we're away from 600.
Huh? We're close. We're close.
Let's go,
guys.
And
like I said, we're teasing the shit out of you. We're not going to tell you what we're doing, but we have some great content in the works for you guys. So let's get to that 600 mark. And as I always say, wear your pinstripes, your pride, and play hard.